Welcome to the Creative Ticket Podcast, brought to you by Pacific Video and hosted by Geraldo Rodriguez. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast has been originally created, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening today. Renato Fimene is a Brazilian actor, writer, director, and producer living in Los Angeles. He's the creator of Snail, the story of Daniel, a homeless person in Los Angeles. The short film was featured in different festivals and won different awards. He has also performed in multiple films and plays. Welcome, Renato. It's an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations. Amazing work you've done.
Thank you. Renato, can you start by talking a little bit about how was the process to create Snail and how you were able to carry all these different functions, wear all these different hats at the same time? You were the writer, director, producer, and you were the performer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, I think as an immigrant in another country, performing in another language, there's so many challenges that that's the way I found to make this project happen. So Snail is, I've been in LA, in Los Angeles since 2018. And once I arrived, I saw the discrepancy on how many people in street situations, right? So I was thinking, wow, that's crazy. And I started doing parallels. And so I started writing ideas, and I've never written a script before. I was just an actor and producer in Brazil. So I started writing my ideas, and this was 2018. So last year, 2023, two friends of mine, they were coming to Los Angeles. They're filmmakers in Brazil, and they wanted to stay at my home while they were staying here, so they could buy the cameras and all the technical equipment they needed. So they bought it, and we were talking, like friends, and saying, dude, wow, so all we need now is to use the cameras. I was like, wow, I have an idea that, and then I told them about the idea, and I read the fractions of a script that I had, and they got crazy. They were like, wow, it's a great story. I think we should tell it. So then I start writing and then trying to connect the pieces and beats that I had. And initially it was, I also work in the industry, but on the back office, I work in marketing in a company. And my initial idea was to show this internally for employees, and kind of, see it on the big screen. And I started seeing some barriers, and then I thought, wow, what if instead of this, I could just, put out in festivals. So I went to UCLA, University of California here, and my professor, he is a nice producer, awarded actually. And then we talked, and I said, hey, Chris, I would like to show you the project that I have. It was a 25-minute short movie, almost mid how to say it? I forgot how to say
mid-length, yeah.
Mid-length, yeah. So he said, well, it's great, but I think if you shrink the movie, instead of 25, you put up to 12, I think you have more acceptance in festivals. You could open some, feature films, or I think it's going to be better absorbed. And that's what I did, So the challenge was me and it became my right arm, Tiago Roma, great cinematographer. And he was actually my friend's friend, and I met him here, and we connected, and we bonded so much that we decided to make it happen. So I have years and experience in marketing. So I started guiding, okay, so if this is the project, so then let's create a poster. So then I spoke with a girl that works in the same company as I do to create the art. So, little by little, I started to learn how to do it. So for me, like Snail was an intensive workshop program, or how to how to be a filmmaker in Los Angeles, because as I said, I've never produced here before. I've never written a script, so it was a learning process. And it's been, July this year will be a year that the movie started, running festivals, and it's I'm happy to share this with the world and see people seeing it and debating the back of the story.
And what made you choose such a topic, the homelessness in Los Angeles? What drew your attention to that specifically?
Wow, first because me at least, I came here to do my master's in business of entertainment. So you romanticize and you imagine that Hollywood is everything is perfect, and that was something that shocked me. I was like, wow. And I remember when I stayed in a hostel in Hollywood because I wanted to, see the experience. And I remember seeing a lot of people dealing with homelessness. So I started, watching documentaries and reading about it. And I saw that there's a lot of public policies going on for this type of situation, and then nobody addresses. So I start, investigating, and because for me, I'm usually prone to this type of topics, like minorities and more social impact, and how I believe that. And this I learned throughout my process that the type of artwork that I want to do is an art that somehow change it, people's perspective, or I give focus to something that it somehow left out. So it's hard to separate. Everything's kind of together on my experience on moving to Los Angeles and seeing how sad the situation was.
Sure. And had you directed short films or feature films or plays before? What was that experience?
Wow. I've never, my experience, as I said, this is everything was new to me. When I moved here, I came from a master. So, the whole, oh, you cannot do this type of work. You cannot act yet. So I started doing some coaches, right? Going on camera and, learning a little how the techniques, and each coach, they have different techniques on approaching improv in front of the camera. So I never had any. I mean, when I arrived here, I was lucky enough to be featured in a commercial, a TV commercial, and that was like something that out of the blue happened. So I never directed. That was the first time that I experienced the set in Brazil. I'm Brazilian. In Brazil, I had two experiences, so the reason why I moved to Los Angeles was exactly because I wanted to work with entertainment being directed. So as I started learning a little more, I was like, wow, I like directing, I can put my point of view on this. I think somehow I could do the work. So I started learning, so I never did it before. Everything is new to me, and I started doing a certificate at UCLA on directing as well to kind of learn a little more. But I've been an actor since 2003. So as you study and you do university, and then you start seeing multiple perspectives on how to make art, I think I developed somehow a more sensible perspective on the actor because I am an actor. So I think I could access. So it's something that I've been trying and doing with no pressure.
Amazing. Amazing. And you were the actor, you were the director, you were the writer, you were the producer, and the film was chosen Best Film in the Los Angeles Brazilian Film Festival, and you won the awards for Best Actor, Best Acting Debut, and Best Screenplay at the New York International Film Awards. So, first of all, congratulations. Those are
Thank you.
excellent, wonderful achievements. Do you find that the whole career you had in Brazil is valuable in the U.S.? How does that relate? How does all that experience that you had previously helps you where you are now?
Wow. I even got goosebumps because this is, like once I moved here, and it's really lonely, the process of migrating, right? Because you're thinking about things like, am I doing the right choice? What about everything that I learned, all the connections that I had? And with Snail, it was the proof to me that everything adds up. You never leave behind everything that you learned, every experience that you had. It's like, you work in a pharmaceutical company and then you move to a bank. Of course, different industries, but it adds up. And my journey has been so multiple. I've done everything that you imagine. I've done it in a way. So it's beautiful to see like that I'm now a 40-year-old guy, man, recently turned, and it's beautiful to see that that what makes me unique, my experience and everything that I've been exposed throughout my life, everything adds up. So yeah.
And do you find that there's something specific that you look at and you say, yeah, that's what it was all about? Or what, actually, a different question. What drew you into the arts? What drew you into acting? What made you become an actor? What do you think was it that made you become an actor?
I remember I remember when I was a kid, like those kids that they have a lot of energy, they're always making jokes and trying to mimic people. That was me when I was a kid, but I didn't know that, that I wanted to be an actor. And I remember when I was in high school, a friend of mine, her name is Gisele. I remember she was an actress, and I thought that was awesome. I was like, wow, she's an actress. And I remember seeing her in plays in a school play. She was studying at a theater school in Brazil, and I was like, wow, that's something I think I would like to do it. So I moved to Boston back then to do my one of my high school years. And I remember when I came back, I was doing university, but one of the classes was Saturday afternoon. So I had the Saturday morning. So I was like, wow, so maybe I should do something with this. And then I remember that the school that she was attending to, they had a morning class on Saturday, and that's how I started Macunaíma at the center of São Paulo, the downtown São Paulo. And that was a click, like the jokes and the prov. And that's when I was like, okay, I like to do this, but what is this? And then from that, I joined another school for 3 years. And then after that, I joined Escola de Arte Dramática at the University of São Paulo for 4 years. And then I started, of course, learning and reading and being stimulated, everything art. And that's how everything happened. But it's not something isolated, And I don't know, it's crazy because that fulfills me. Every time I'm acting, I'm like at full potential, So that
So I
for
think
sure is my life calling.
from a young age, you always felt that urge to express yourself and to
Yeah.
reach out to other people through the arts, through your
Yeah.
talent,
I
through
had
what you
pleasure
have
on
to offer.
doing something and seeing that people they were laughing about something that I was doing. I was not a dramatic guy, like, I have drama in my life, I do, but I was not that kid, I wanted to people would laugh and then I felt good because they were laughing. So then as an adult, I started thinking, oh, so that's what I like. I like the fact that I'm telling a story or doing something and I'm changing a perspective, a mood or something. So that's, I shaped and I still do. And I think I will do as I die. But, it's something that you're always shaping in. Oh, so maybe I like to tell this type of story or, I like to do this type of work or this period of my life, I'm into whatever type of project, So yeah, but as a kid, I wanted to express myself, and it's a no way home.
And is that fulfillment, is that feeling that still draws you to it today? Or
Yeah.
during your years, like doing, getting older, it changes a little bit? Or is it still that young Renato that is still feeling good about being able to express himself?
You know what? I was reading something really interesting saying that every time we're in a situation, we're bringing our kid with ourselves, right? And then coincidentally, I just watched a movie called Imaginary Friends this weekend. By the way, it's a cute movie. And that's how I feel. It struck me the inner child. So I think I'm always remembering that I'm bringing with me my child with my traumas and my success, and that's something I try never to forget. And every time I'm dealing with someone or I try to understand how this child was, what when this adult was a child, how he might have been, like.
Amazing. And the Brazilian writer Machado de Assis has a chapter. The boy is the father of the adult. So we are still, yeah, we are still the same person after all, right?
That's beautiful.
And interesting. At the same time, I imagine that you probably found differences between the Brazilian industry and the American industry, and the Brazilian culture and the American culture. I know that's a huge topic, but I would like to listen to your take on that. How does that relate, and how were you able to fit in or adapt, or if you did not adapt, or if you how do you deal with that type of thing?
Yeah, as you said, it's really different, and it's based on my experience. So nothing is 100% true because I'm telling my story, my experience with this. In Brazil, I didn't have any. I mean, I've done some TV commercials, but I've never done anything big. And I remember before moving here, I found an agent that started representing me, but then I moved here. So I didn't have that much time, to actually work with that agent. And before that, I was, I would say like a mass agency, a lot of people, and they filter your type, and they send those 30 people to the casting, and then whoever gets, lucky them, right? That's my experience. So when I found this guy that, apparently was someone that could, help me build these opportunities, because then, I was recently graduated from EAD. It was awesome. But then I moved here, and here I dealt with a different scenario. Here, for example, it's really segmented. So they have me as an actor, I have an agent and a manager. A manager is someone that's going to manage your career and try and negotiate and, find, what's going to work for you. And an agent, it's someone that's going to, I'll say, I have this type of role. Okay, Renato. It kind of guides you. You can work with both of them at the same time. So you hire them to work for you, or you can just work with one or with any if you decide so. My experience is I was adding to everything that I've said until now. I was tired of kind of not expecting, but counting on someone to kind of put me out there and find me this opportunity, because it's really there's so many people that come to LA trying to fulfill their dreams. There are people from all over the world, and I started, but it was not a good experience because, oh, you have to lose your accent. What if we do this type of picture instead of this type of picture? What if we do a demo reel for you, but I've never acted? Okay, so what if you pay for someone to create some scenes for you? So it was like complicating. And then I came back to the beginning. Why am I an actor, right? And because I come from a place of how to say this. I know I forgot the word, but I come from a place where I can work a 9 to 5, so my money doesn't come from me being an actor, and that gives me a little breathing moment for me not to rush on things. And then because of Snail, I was like, wow, so if I do something, a project, even a small project, a really low budget project, but it's a story that I want to tell, if I do more of this, people will start seeing my work, and I'm going to position myself how I want to be positioned at actor, producer, director, so I learned that I could kind of guide my career. So I don't have much experience here. I have, I did the beginning interviews with agents and managers. Some were good. Some were saying, oh, but you don't have all the paperwork to work with me now. So I put it in standby, and then Snail taught me and has been teaching me a lot of ways on how to create my own opportunity. It's not, every time it's not flowers, but it's something that for me it works. I'm not putting myself for someone to kind of fight for me. I might change,
Sure.
I might do a work and that leads me to an agent or to a manager, but then it's different. It's not me auditioning and auditioning and auditioning because I did it and it was tiring for me.
And I find it interesting how you see that the industry has those specificities in the US. Do you yourself differentiate between what is the actual creative work and what is an actual creative career? Or is it the same for you? Like, do you see yourself in terms of, so as a performer, this is my voice, this is what I like to do. I have a dramatic side, I have a comedic side, I have these techniques, I have these things that I feel comfortable talking about, I have this energy, I have this. As a career, let's say the traditional part would be either to go to an agent or a manager, but you're choosing an independent path, which is producing your own things. But can you tell those differences, or is it like you think the work will make the career happen? Does it work like that, or those two are different, completely different things?
I think it does in a little bit. My perspective is I need to be creative in my life. Let's say if I'm doing something, I need, oh, what if I did, creativity is part of me. The way I found myself that works for myself is me creating my work, and kind of the work is going to lead me to other projects. That's my hope. And that's how I've been guiding my career here in LA. Is I'm gonna create more and more of things that I want to talk about, or projects that I get invited to, and because I'm in a movement, opportunities will appear, and I'm gonna say, oh, this makes sense. I want to join this. Oh, but it doesn't get paid, but it's gonna teach me something different. Like so. That's the way I'm working with my creative process here and the types of project that I join. But for example, I recently opened a production company, and it's fun to receive some scripts and read it and talk about possibilities, and especially connecting uh, U.S. and Brazil, or U.S. and Mexico, or U.S. and France. It's the things that types of projects that I've been involved to, and you see that everyone has a different creative process. So I kind of like a chameleon. I kind of may make myself. Oh, I like the way Jetta is conducting this creative process. So I go. I don't have a specific way to access my creativity. Of course, if I'm memorizing lines or something like this, I have the way I do. But creative process, I might be eating something. I'm like, oh, this could be a good idea, and then I take a note just to not lose it, but it appears. It's involuntary.
Right, right. So you're leading a creative life altogether. You're creating from what draws your attention. Your antenna is out there to listen to what's asking to be told, what's asking to be exchanged. But for an instant, I would like to go to the side where you come from Brazil and you're in the US. Besides the shock of seeing homelessness in the streets of Los Angeles, how do you see that difference, the difference between your background and the place you're living right now? Is there a way people in Los Angeles work, behave, talk to each other that's different from the way people did that in Brazil?
You mean on a day to day or in the
On a day to
artistic
day,
world?
and just both on a day to day and also in a professional environment, or in a creative environment.
Yeah, it is because, well, I am really, I talk like the way I talk, the way I express myself. I'm really, into touching and kissing, Brazilians. So I think the way the culture we have and our history creates the way we are. So that for itself, it's a different way. And for example, in an office, I in Brazil I used to say good morning and kiss, hi, and here it's really good morning, and you sit at your desk and then you work. Of course, you interact, you make jokes, but it's a total different perspective, and that's what makes us unique in a way. Specifically talking about being Latino here, that's another bucket that we would need another talk, but there's a lot of underrepresented scenario in Hollywood. There's a lot of studies. USC has a really good study on D&I, right? Diversity and inclusion, where they touch specifically on Latinos and Latino women represented behind the cameras versus in front of the camera. So there is a lot of challenges to be to for us to overcome as a group, if I can say. But in the same time, it's if you're opened and to seeing what type of voices are out there, you can add to this and create something bigger. Like for example, what you're doing with your podcast is super cool. You're doing it in another language and you're interviewing multiple artists around the world that somehow you want to exchange with, and that's the beauty. It's a Latino guy telling different stories, and it doesn't separate the fact that you still a Latino and then the way you act, the way you conduct. And then I learned here that I don't need to fit in, right? I don't need to find the formula and then okay, I need to lose accent and I need to do this type of hair and I cannot get too much sun and I just that's the way I am. That's what I print in camera and something is gonna happen and appear. That's me. That's my experience.
So in the end, you find that maybe the authenticity of being yourself is actually the way to engage, is actually the way to connect with a new culture.
Yeah, because for me, that's how creativity works. In your mind, you're thinking about someone like exactly like you, and then if you're trying to be not you, then we're not gonna connect in a way, right? That's my medicine for me to make peace with the fact that I am different, and I'm not gonna fight to not for me not to be who I am. So that's my strength, being working in my full potential as I am with my, wrinkles, whatever I want, freckles, you name it, whatever is a pain for you, visually or physically, of course, in different layers. But I think at the same time that what makes us unique, and I will never. First, I don't want to because I'm really proud to be Latino, and I'll never try to fit in and lose my accent and become Americanized. Well, maybe some work might require me to adapt, but change? No.
And we grow up in Brazil. We grow up watching lots of American films. I imagine you've also everyone in the world watches American films, and we have an idea of of what the U.S. looks like and of how people behave and what's the sort of sense of humor. Are you able to tell what is the spirit? What is the Geist? What is the thing that not defines but gets close to defining what the US is for you?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
And
I
I'll
don't.
I'll help you just by explaining how I see our culture, Brazilian culture. I'm from São Paulo, and I find that in Brazil, capoeira would be a good way for me to describe myself, because Brazilians are cheerful. We are funny. We laugh about things. We don't take things too serious. We are always dancing, but we know how to take care of ourselves. We are able to defend ourselves if we want to. And you don't quite know what's gonna be. Is it gonna be a dance, like, or is it gonna be a fight? We are ready. I always remind myself capoeira for me. How do you see the US, and if you have a take on Brazilian culture as well?
That's a good definition on capoeira. I because of our history and all the struggles we have, I see that we adapt way more. And like small things, let's say I was doing a test and then lights went off, right? So, oh my God, we're not gonna be able to make the test now. And then I was like, why don't we use that? And like I think we adapt and we have to be more creative because the struggles we have. So for me, that's the key takeaway. On a day to day, I see that Brazilians, we are creative, right? There's a lot of memes on things that just Brazilians create. That's that's fun, and it doesn't make us better or worse. It's just the way we are. So I think us compared to not generalizing, but to the to the American culture that I've experienced is I think we're more creative in a way, and we're like, yes, we're dancing around. We see if it's a tech or not. It's hard sometimes to figure it out, but I think that's what makes us unique. And I was actually seeing, so the Brazilian consulate and Los Angeles, the American Cinematheque, they started showing Brazilian films here, right, for people to interact. And they brought José Padilha and Wagner Moura to show Tropa de Elite. And it was really cool to see Wagner Moura. I felt so proud of him. I was like, wow, this is, he's Brazilian, man, and he is doing like Hollywood titles now. And, the way he's portraying, and showing us and sharing his perspective. I mean, I don't agree with 100%, but he inspires me, like, the way he is. And he always, whenever he has an opportunity, he talks about Brazil and our culture. And I agree with him on the fact that he doesn't want to change. He's super proud of being Brazilian Baiano, and that is like wow. He gets my heart on that part as well. And by the way, if you didn't watch his last movie, Civil War is fantastic because there's a question the guy makes, and this is in the trailer. It's no spoiler. He says, "Oh, but no, don't do anything with us. We're Americans." And then the guy asks, "What type of American?" And that's a question that strikes me. So when you're asking this, I'm like thinking about those layers.
And is the US, you feel the US is divided at this point as the world is divided? Because I think Brazil is divided. Is the US divided as well?
You gave the answer.
And do you find
I
that
think
there's a way out? There's a way for people to understand each other? Because I think Civil War is about. Imagine Civil War. I didn't watch it yet, but I imagine this is what it's about.
yeah, it's a polarized world. I think more than divided, I would use the word polarized. I think anything that you polarize, you create two sides and there's nothing in between, and so there's no bridge to connect if you're doing two sides, right? When you divide, so I would say it's polarized. There's more towards this side, but then somehow, oh, okay, so maybe here I have more knowledge, so I understand more. I believe more in a polarized world, and I think the world is polarized. If you get every political conflict happening, and so much sadness and so much conflicts because of this. Well, again, we can go in a deeper way, but I just think that polarization it's something hard to deal with. So yes, we live in a polarized world.
And do you find that the arts are a way of bringing understanding, or at least acknowledging the problem and acknowledging the sides to a story, or are people just preaching to their own crowd?
I think again, it takes two, right? Again, if we were super well open to conversation, we wouldn't have them many conflicts. I just think that it really depends. It takes two to have a conversation. And I learned in Brazil, you have one mouth and two ears. So I learned more to listen more and then to have a conversation so I can then have a perspective. But sometimes when you're blind, you just want to say whatever truth you have. So I don't know. You made $1 million question. I don't know.
Right. That's all right. It's a question I think no one has the answer to. We are
Maybe
just
it's a wish, right?
trying
We
to
have the
figure
wish.
out.
Yeah.
And you were saying this beautiful thing about how you see that Wagner Moura inspires you to be your authentic self, to be proud of being a Brazilian. Does moving countries change the way you look at your own country?
Yeah.
Does it help you understand your own country?
A lot. From the basic stuff, right? When someone, oh, what is the typical food in Campinas? I don't know. So you start, okay. And then you start thinking because of the questions people make, you do a different question and then it's a possibility to see a different world. Or like when you forget a specific, you're talking to someone and that person is from a different country and then asks you, oh, so when was the Brazilian whatever happened? When that happened? And you don't, oh, then you look. So it's always a fresh eye to your culture. So I think I've learned even more, especially now that I've, creating a script and trying to do parallels between me as an artist in Brazil and putting myself here. I need to do those parallels to, okay, so if I want to say this, I need to understand then the American culture, but even more the Brazilian culture, Brazilian history. So I think it opens a different side of your brain that, it's kind of, open another door, and then you're kind of mixing and learning different. So yes, it changed a lot, and it made me even prouder, and it made me even care a little even more for the things that I used to care. I changed a lot, man, in those 6 years here in USA. I changed a lot. We went through a pandemic, so during a pandemic in Brazil was totally different than going through a pandemic in USA, so everything, even though, sometimes people, he's in Australia, he's way better, but there's always trade-offs, and yes, you need to isolate, but you learn. It's not because you're not in the shit that you cannot open your eyes. Oh, wow. I think from different perspectives, but it changed a lot the way I see, for the better, I see my country, and I'm even prouder to be Brazilian.
Interesting. Really beautiful. And you've collaborated with Maju Cancela in
Hmm.
a short film, Love in Times of Quarantine. It's about a short film about how people might connect through a professional video conference. And I imagine you recorded during the pandemics. First question: is it easier to start collaborating with people from your the same background as you, or is it just a coincidence that you find other Brazilians to connect, just as you would find Americans, Mexicans, French people, or people from even other nationalities?
Yeah. I think that more than anything, it's networking. This is a profession of networking, right? What we're doing here, the types of people that we can, maybe someone in Australia is hearing what I'm saying, and then, oh, who's this guy? And I want to talk to him, or no, I don't want to never talk to this guy. But I believe that networking, and the more you go in the industry, the more you participate in events, you start meeting people. And then Maju and I, we met going to movie festivals, to Brazilian film festivals. Oh, and then connecting. And I knew someone that used to work at Disney, and she had a connection with someone at working at Disney. So we spent a Thanksgiving together talking about art. And then she told me she was a scriptwriter. And this was okay before the pandemic, right when I arrived. And then 2 years later, pandemic hit, and then she came to me, hey, I have this project. And it was the moment where I was creating some videos on my Instagram, trying to, like everyone else, trying to find escape to the reality where we're living. And then she was like, wow, I have something that you might like. Because, the funny videos that what I was doing. So she said, I have a script that I'm gonna submit to the UCLA Film Festival to start with, and then we're gonna submit to other festivals, and that's how everything started. So for me, networking is the most important part. For example, I went to Sundance, and it was really cool. It was my first time. I was like, wow, it's like Disneyland for filmmakers, right? Because you're breathing filmmaking, then you're on the line, and then you meet the guy that rides, and so the more you network, I think that's when you create your connections. And Brazilians, for me, like, because I was going to the Brazilian film festivals as a start, I met more Brazilian people. And then I actually had a friend, she's an actress, and then she moved here a year before me, and then I connect with her, and she knew more people. So it's always multiplying. But it's the way you connect with people, right? It's not because we're Brazilians we're gonna love each other and create together. I found different situations, but networking is the key, from my perspective.
And how do you perform it in a second language? Is it a different challenge? Because it's hard enough to perform in your own language sometimes, but to perform using a different language, how does that work for you? Or are by now you're already, yeah, I can switch back and forth between Portuguese and English, and it's just the way it is. With time, it gets easier.
I think this is the plasticity of the brain, right? Because sometimes, like, for example, nowadays I mix a lot of words because my mind is like running like crazy. But acting in a different language, it's not easy. For example, I need to practice a lot a specific line or something because as I'm talking, it's like if I had two personalities, I'm talking and then I'm hearing myself talking. I'm like, why this voice? My voice is different in Portuguese because I access a different part of my vocal cord. I don't know, like the way I use my tongue. So it's hard. So the more I practice, I normalize it, but it's always hard. It's another language, the pronunciation. Although we have an accent, we have to be understood. So, I used to have a tendency to eat, how we say in Brazil, to eat some letters and that people wouldn't understand me. Sometimes I try to do a joke and then they're like, what are you talking about? We're gonna try to translate. So it's a challenge, but I learned to understand those differences so I could make peace with me. But even when I'm doing, I usually do, coach sessions. So I do a summer session with a specific coach to practice on camera. So as we're analyzing whatever I did, I'm like, oh my God, what? I didn't understand. So it's hard because you're not only judging yourself, you're like, it's not this. But then it's a learning process. You can, okay, so this I should pronounce differently. So it's a
And is the
conversational
feeling the same?
practice.
Because when you change the muscles that you use to speak, when you change the muscles that you use to behave, you change your personality.
Yeah.
Does it change the characters? Does it change your character as well?
Yeah, but at the same time, it creates the uniqueness we were talking about. For example, the types of feedback that I get is like, wow, I like how you move your body the way you are. It's like, wow, but this is Brazilians. We're like this. So it's the uniqueness as well. I think the way you sound, for example, the jokes, or of course me Renato, because you cannot separate this, but me Renato plus me being Brazilian doing an American horror movie. I remember I auditioned for a horror movie. It was really hard because I remember I needed to say a word and I forgot now, of course, because we're interviewing. So of course I forgot. It's like a board, like a board, and it was really hard word. And I was remembering, like it was like this chunk of text, and that word I couldn't get it. So I would every time I would stop on that word and not remember. So it's challenging. The language is challenging.
And is there a way out? Because if you're improvising, if you forget a word in your own language, you find a different
I
one. You move
improvise,
on. But
or or you say this. You know what is this? And the person says, "Well, a notebook. Yes, we need to use the notebook to whatever." And then it depends, and that's the play, right? Because then to play and it's to have fun to play. So you're playing, and then it's me and you acting, and then we're gonna see if you're a good player or not. You wouldn't let me with the ball, and then us not make a goal, right?
exactly, excellent. And Renato, what's in your mind for your next objectives? What are your next goals? What would you like to achieve now that you've turned 40
Dude,
for the next year and for hopefully the next 40 or more years?
man, it's something that I've been thinking a lot on this question, and this is a philosophical question for me. I want to express myself more than anything. Going back to my childhood, I want to express myself, and of course do a parallel with what the world is going on and the types of story that I want to talk about at that moment, the types of stories that I want to produce, even if I'm not acting or directing, just as a producer. I need to connect, and I think that's when you kind of align everything. Opportunity meets whatever. I think this is it. I wanna keep telling stories, expressing myself, and giving voices to people without this opportunity. And I think this is something when you have more visibility, and you have visibility in Brazil, and there's more people watching and hearing what you have to say. So when you give opportunity to other voices, that's you expressing through a different eye, a different story, something that is gonna create a change in people. So as long as I express myself, it doesn't have to be $1 million. Well, if it is, it's even better. But $1 million feature film, it can be a short film. Like Snail is a short film. I'm proud of it. As you said, great results. But more than anything, the story is in front of anything that you can imagine. So there's was the first time that I didn't deal, and you're gonna watch it, I didn't deal with ego, you know. I was telling a story, and that's me making peace with me as a person. So telling stories.
Amazing. Amazing. And a little bit more specific than that, do you have any projects, ongoing projects? Are you looking for a collaboration? Are you open to listen about other people's projects? What is your perspective as a producer of what the industry is looking for at the moment?
I'm always open. As you said, I'm open to collaboration. At this moment, I have some scripts that I'm reading to see if there is, the type of stories that I would like to tell, or if I have the caliber to make this type of story. So I think, being more open and collaborating and multiplying voices. I'm all about multiplying.
Right. Two questions before we wrap up. I've been asking this question for the guests that have been on the show so far, which is, how is it like being you? What makes you you? If you were not you and you saw yourself walking on the street, how would you describe that person? How would you describe yourself?
As a solar person, a person that is always trying to bring, joy to life, sparkle. I consider myself an optimistic, but not, in that sick way, toxic way. I see myself as, a positive person, solar. I'm always trying to help and connect. And that's something that I'd never want to lose, I never want to have ego in front of me. So you get blind. So I think I would be happy if I connect you with another person that creates, both of you create a huge project. So that's me. I like to, again, going back to my child, I like to make people feel better. I think that's why I do what I do.
Amazing. And as a friend of mine once taught me, when she's a writer, and when she's writing a script, she has this exercise where she pictures the main character in a photograph, in a picture, where the main character has achieved everything they strived for, everything they fought for. And there is this picture, could be them with the things they achieved. If you had that picture taken of yourself at the end of your life, what would be there in that picture with you?
It would be a friends and family, really big, big, big picture. The big family with a lot of friends. That's for me, what I want to take from this life is the connections that I make, the people that I meet. I'm all about people, 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 people. And that's a challenge as well sometimes. But for me, it would be a picture where, it's like that huge picture, and then you're seeing everyone. Oh my God, I remember Jetta. For me, that's the translation of happiness for me.
Amazing. Really beautiful. I think that's it so far. Renato, thank you so much for
Thank you.
being on The Creative Ticket. It was a pleasure talking to you. I hope we repeat this a few times, because I imagine you have lots of things going on, and I would like to know more about what you've been up to in a few months, probably. How about that?
I would love to. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Congratulations on the amazing work you've done. I'm going to be here cheering and ready for you whenever you want to connect. And make sure to listen and hear all the different and beautiful minds that you connect. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Ticket podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to share this with your friends and family, and subscribe so you can stay up to date with new episodes. Feel free to reach out to hello@pacificvideo.com.au for feedback and suggestions. We would love to hear from you. Take care.